Hey everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Today we are doing the transits, but it's a little bit different. And the truth is, I've got a bit of good news and I've got a bit of sad news. Unfortunately, Yvette is not here with us this month as she's going through an incredibly challenging time with a family issue, which I'm sure she will share with you next month. But I would ask that you send a lot of love Yvette's way right now because she really, really needs it. The good news is we are joined by our incredible Reflector coach from HDX, the beautiful Britta Buchanan. Welcome, Britta.
Hello, Emma. Hello, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be here under, some sad circumstances, given that Yvette is going through a challenging time. And yet it's delightful to be here in her place. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm pumped to have you. So for those of you out there that are wondering, Britta is a 1-4 reflector cross of rulership. So a lot of powerful energy there. And the other thing that I want to just jump on and say right at the beginning of the podcast, there's one more thing I would love to ask of you, friend. That is that as we record this and probably as this goes to air, we will be facing a cyclone. A tropical cyclone Alfred is just about to hit the coast, probably about 12 hours away, up in Brisbane, but it's going to have a significant effect on us down here in Byron Bay. So could I ask that you all send prayers to everyone on the east coast of Australia that are affected by this cyclone? Can you please send out protection prayers, love prayers, do the best we can to try and dissipate Alfred as he makes land in the wee hours of Friday morning Australian time. So that'll be Thursday for you US people. Greatly appreciated. Thank you so much, beautiful humans. All right. So let's get to the whole reason we're here and start to talk about the transit. So Britta, I know that literally I asked Britta to do this about 12 hours ago.
Yeah.
So we're going to be all really championing you, beautiful. So if there is something that you haven't prepared for that I ask you about, let's not worry about that. We'll just keep moving forward. But did you take a look at February in review? And if you did, let's start there.
February in review. I didn't go deep into February. However, just thinking about the sun transits in February, I do know that, it's end of Aquarius season, early February, and then we have Pisces season starts in around the 20th, and this is all that emotional solar plexus gates that we're going through, and it starts in February, and we have a break from it right now. We're at the beginning of March for a week, and then we're going to be going through it again. And so there is a lot of that energy in the air, especially with some of the other transits going on. I know that I believe 35 is still in Jupiter, and so we have that going on. 3536 is activated with the this North Node in Pisces in 36, and so there's a lot of emotional energy going on in the air. I know I've been feeling it. I'm a reflector, so I feel everything, and I've spoken to other reflectors who are also kind of feeling it. And it doesn't matter if you're a reflector or not, like if you are a human who lives on this earth, there's a lot of stuff going around. There's a lot of energy going around. There's a lot of emotional solar plexus energy happening. And so give yourself some grace. That's what I would say.
Yeah. I love it. And I think you're right. It's funny, as an emotional person, and I have the 36, the 35 is actually one of my two bridge gates. And I've actually felt really emotionally balanced for the last few weeks. And I actually feel like I've gone to a new level with my emotional wave. But it's fascinating, isn't it? Like, aren't I lucky? Because so often we talk about how challenging it is to be an emotional being. How lucky am I to be an emotional being in emotional season? Because I'm dealing predominantly with my own emotions, not the rest of the planet. And let's be honest, especially if you're in the US right now, it could feel very emotional, very scary, especially if you have an undefined spleen. So, yeah, hang in there, people. You've totally got this. So, Britta, why don't we kick off with March? Tell us about March.
March is, I mean, we have so much going on this month. This is a crazy month for the transits. And so I want to go deep into a couple of the different areas. To quickly
Yeah, I was going to say, what makes it crazy? Yeah. Tell us what makes it crazy.
We have a couple big retrogrades happening. Venus went retrograde on March 1st in Aries, and that is going to continue back into Pisces before the end of the month. And so this is around, Venus goes retrograde every 18 months or so, and this is not a regular thing. And Venus is, the planet of love and relationships and boundaries and values. And being in Aries, this is like, that fiery Aries energy. So yeah, we are in Venus and Aries. We are in gate 21 right now in Venus. And so that is all about, the authority and the gift, valor and the city, if we're talking gene keys. But that's control in the shadow. And so if, there's energy in this retrograde phase, you might be noticing that themes of control are coming up for you in your personal relationships. And you
Sorry,
I want to have something to respond to. No, I'm like seeing that my MG over here has something to respond to.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. You said, so it went into retrograde. Did it go into the 21 on the 1st of March, or is that just now?
It's been in the 21 since the 1st of March.
See, you just blown my mind. Mm-hmm. So one of the massive transformations that I had, and it wasn't so much the transformation on the trip, it was the realization of the growth and the healing. And I've kind of touched on it on my last podcast. But one of the things that I've noticed in this Venus retrograde while we've been in 21 is in the past, and I talked about it with Jim, like I was trying to control, things to feel safe. Whereas now I'm completely in this new place of authority. Like all of my triggers in that relationship, it's like I'm seeing these old patterns come up. Like we're in a cyclone right now, or about to be in a cyclone, and I am so prepared. We're all taken care of. We are super safe. We're feeling really confident. And my ex kept sending me texts like, you should get out of there. You should get out of there. And it's like this old pattern of distrusting myself. And I'm just like, I'm not triggered. I'm like, nope, we're good. We've done everything. We're good. The house is solid. Like I literally know the guy who built the house. So we know we're super solid. So I love that you just started with that, because for me, it's an epiphany of like, wow, look, I've grown. I'm not triggered. I'm not distrusting the choices that I've made. I'm absolutely the authority in my own relationship with myself and my self-worth. So I'm loving it. Thanks, Britta.
You're so welcome. Yeah. And now that you even even talking that out, because, the soundboard authority, or part of my authority is soundboarding, is I'm thinking about some things in my life too. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like way more in a place of authority right now than I would have been in the past in some of my current situations. And so it's just really quite amazing when you can see the transits at work. And I have the 45, and so that channel is actually activated for me right now. The money line, ooh, exciting stuff.
Yeah, and it's also the most powerful manifestor channel, which I think is really interesting, that in this moment you've actually been invited to come in and to like initiate this March energy, So again, you can't make this shit up. It's so cool.
Yeah, that manifestor energy activated in me. So we are in the 21 retrograde in Venus until the 10th. And then we move into the 17, which is the gate of opinions. And I know, Emma, you have that gate. And so that's, very opinionated in the shadow. In the gift, it's, farsightedness. It's being able to see beyond all the, the things that drag us down, the opinions that get us in our, feelings, and are able to be like, oh, okay, I can see the big picture. I can see beyond the opinions. And so if we're noticing, there's already a lot of that energy going around, especially in the US, the 17 energy.
I was going to say, like that for the US, like being able to sort of sit back, hold space for all the opinions, instead of having to have an opinion about everybody's opinions and then sharing your opinion about their opinions. Like, just hold space for it. Just hold space for it.
And as we go into that energy in the 10th, I just imagine that it's going to even more amplified with, it's going into Venus at that time. And that is going to be, we have that until the 21st when Venus goes into the 25, which is all about, universal love and acceptance in its gift, and yet constriction in its shadow. And that's G center energy, that's directional energy. That actually coincides with the sun being in 25 at that time. And so that's kind of going to be this beautiful energy of like, where are we constricted in our relationships versus where are we perhaps a little bit more accepting and able to love all people regardless.
I love that. And I think that that's also, isn't that fascinating that it's in Venus, so relationships, it's coming from opinions and then going into the gate, which is all about the love of the spirit, this universal unconditional love. And I really feel like this is such an important time to step away from right, wrong, good or bad, because I really think that any human on the planet, any American, let's say, politician, just for example,
Yeah.
you could find 1,000 different people with 1,000 different opinions, and you could probably validate all of those opinions in some way. And I think that this is such an important time that we don't get stuck in that we have to be in our own bodies, and all that really matters is what feels correct and aligned for us, as opposed to getting involved in everybody else's. So allowing us to move to that love of the spirit, like really like higher consciousness, tapped into the unconditional universal love, and just accepting that everyone's going to have an opinion, but it's not, you don't have to do anything about it. Your job is to raise your consciousness and to bring more love into the world, because that's going to help create peace and harmony in this challenging time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And absolutely. So that we do have this fiery Aries energy in retrograde right now in Venus, and that is very much like me energy. It's like, we a lot of times I've heard it say it's like, the toddler of the zodiac. And yet there's so much fire in its shadow, or pardon me, in its gift, and like really good, like constructive, let's move forward. And it's like, how are we using that fire? Are we using it to burn bridges and be the toddler? Or are we going to rise above that and use the fire to do something constructive? And ultimately, we have the choice. So I think
I love that
this Venus in retrograde in Aries is a very, very powerful time for us to reconsider how we're moving and how we're taking action.
Yeah, and especially in relationship, I think Aries and Venus together also really is like the masculine, but it's all and the feminine. But it's also, I feel like Aries, and I mean I could be wrong because astrology is not really my thing, but Aries always feels like to me like the initiator, like it's the beginning. So what beginning, which makes me think of the 53. So how are you beginning? Are you beginning from love, or are you beginning from fear? So I think that's, especially when we talk about intimate relationships, because our intimate relationships start with the intimate relationship with self. So how and who are we being in that place? Because that's going to determine how we go on, how we continue.
Absolutely, 100%. And we end off the month with Venus and moving into Pisces on the 20s. Is it the 27th, it looks like. Yep, on the 27th, Venus moves into Pisces retrograde. So we still have the Venus in retrograde kind of, reviewing and kind of the themes of the retrograde period, which is a lot about reviewing relationships specifically and how we show up and what we value. But we're moving from that fiery Aries into a little bit more, intuitive, mystical Pisces. And we end off the month with it moving into the 36 on the 30th. And so that is, of course, the crisis in the shadow, but humanity and compassion in the gift. And so, kind of rounding out all that we've been talking about the past couple minutes, and is just like, how can we end off this month in our relationships thinking about, despite all the control and all the opinions and all the constriction that we might be experiencing in the shadow of those gates, like how can we really move into and see the compassion and the humanity and all of it?
Exactly. And I always think of the 36 and it's the gate of crisis in human design, and it's the gift of humanity, and in the gene keys. And I have the 36. It's actually in my pearl, which is my personality Jupiter. And at first I was kind of like, what? Like this? I don't get it. What does humanity mean? And what it really means for me is it's this energy of every person. You know, it's that energy of I get you because I am you. It's this energy of, well, I've had so many, you know, emotional crisis that I've walked in your shoes. So it's this energy of real acceptance of self and others. So it's a really beautiful energy in its higher expressions. It's compassion in the acidic state, you know.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And I think something that, especially during these times, is really important to keep in mind, because it's so easy to get lost. I think a lot of people, it's so easy to get lost in, the crisis of what's happening in the world. And especially like we talked about for people in the US, there's a lot of fear, and it does feel like a crisis for a lot of people. And yet at the end of the day, we all are one human family. And if we can see the humanity in each other, even with people that we disagree with, and even with people that we think are doing horrible things, I think that is a really incredible way of moving forward.
And it's the only way. You know, it's the only way. We're in this time where we have to understand that the power lies in the people's hands, but the people first must stop this bullshit separation story that we're being fed by the elite, and actually realize that we are all one human family, as you said. Like, once we get that, it doesn't matter what color we are, what religion we are, what gender we are, what we do, how much money we have, what we look like. None of it matters, because we are all part of the same human family. And once we as the people get that and come together and reject separation, that's really when significant change is going to happen. And honestly, I feel like that's a lot of what I'm seeing living in Byron Bay right now. There's so many news stories of fear, but all of my friends, the community that I hang with, they're all like, yeah, nah, I'm not investing in that. Like, the elite can tell me whatever they think, but that's not what my body, my biofeedback, my connection to source is telling me. So, I think it's a super important time for us to really understand that the power is in all of us as individuals coming together as a collective.
Absolutely. And I would even just say, like, for me as a reflector, going from different environments where there are people more in fear and people that are kind of see the bigger picture, it's incredible just the way that I feel in those environments. And the feeling is so different. And I always want to choose. I mean, obviously we can't always be in the ideal environment, but I always want to choose, that place of like seeing the bigger picture, because I think there's so much more beauty in it, and freedom as well.
Yeah, exactly. Well said. Are you looking to build a successful human design or astrology business? Do you wish that you had your own chart tool on your website so you don't have to send people somewhere else to get it? BodyGraph.com provides all the resources you need to turn this vision into a reality. We use this incredible software in our business to provide charts and custom reading reports at the click of a button, generate leads, and bring in lots of passive revenue. BodyGraph.com has already helped coaches and entrepreneurs generate over $2.5 million in revenue. If you're ready to take your business seriously, start with a free trial and use the code HumanDesignPodcast to get 30% off for 6 months. Here's what you can do with BodyGraph.com. Embed stunning charts directly into your website, build personalized lead magnets to grow your email list, create and sell detailed reading reports, and even use their free website builder to get started fast. BodyGraph.com is the ultimate all-in-one platform for building your human design or astrology business. If you're ready to join the community of successful entrepreneurs, visit bodygraph.com and start building your dream business today. Follow the link in the show notes and use the code HumanDesignPodcast to get 30% off for 6 months. All right, where are we going next?
So we finish up Venus retrograde for the month, and Venus is retrograde until I believe it's April 12th, if I remember correctly. So we're not done with Venus retrograde at the end of March, but save that for you and Yvette for next month, because April is not March. I want to move on to Mercury retrograde because Mercury is going retrograde on the 15th, I believe, 14th, 15th. It's currently in its pre-retrograde shadow where it starts to slow down. But we all know Mercury retrograde. I mean, it's, the time when communication, we want to be mindful of our communication, be mindful of our technology. I was born during Mercury retrograde, so I personally don't feel as much of an impact. And so if you are one of the small amount of people who was also born during a Mercury retrograde, you might not notice it as much. However, it is still something to be aware of because our communication is like a huge part of our humanity and our aliveness.
Yeah.
And so
Mercury, I wonder if I was born in a Mercury retrograde, because I don't feel like it really affects me that much. Like I've had one significant hiccup. But that's it. Like in 50 years of being on the planet, like it doesn't really affect me. And I do think it's got something also to do with I don't invest in it. Like, oh fuck, here we go. I don't invest in that. I'm just aware of it, but yeah, I'll have to look that up. Anyway.
And I do think that's super important to point out. And I know you've talked about this on the podcast before, but the predictive astrology, it's all mindset. So, where your focus goes, your energy flows. And so we're talking all about these retrogrades and how they may or may not impact you. And you may notice it globally as well. But just remember that if you're going to put your attention and think, oh, Mercury retrograde is the end of the world, well, yeah, of course it will be, because you're going to create that. So as I talk about these retrogrades, I also want to be mindful and remind everyone who's listening that you make of it what you make of it. Your experience is what you make of it.
I definitely think like one of the things for me with Mercury retrograde is or any retrograde, I always think, oh, brilliant, it's a do-over. It's a time for me to do something better. So with Mercury, it's like, awesome, I'm going to do a better job of communicating that thing. Oh, wow, I just had a whole awareness drop in on the one time I remember losing everything back in 2021 when we were in the caravan, and during Mercury retrograde, my whole computer just lost its shit, and I lost one article that I wrote that was really, 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 really good on the new paradigm. And it's so funny as I said it, like that we get a do-over. So obviously I just keep getting a do-over, and I'm just working on something on the new paradigm right now that's even better than I've ever done before. So there is the divine guidance just being made conscious in my own awareness. Cheers.
Awesome. So Mercury is currently in Pisces in the 36. No, I'm sorry. It's in the 25 right now. It started off the month in the 36 and moved into the 25 on the 2nd. And tomorrow, actually it's the 6th for you. It's the 5th for me. But on March 6th, at some point on March 6th, I don't know whose time zone, it's going to move into the 17. So again, we have all these gates that we talked about earlier on when we went through Venus. They're both going through Aries and Pisces, and so it's kind of a repeat. And then also the sun is going through Pisces and Aries this month as well, and so all these gates are showing up all over the place. So the 6th is the 17, and then on the 14th is the 21, and then Mercury will go retrograde in the 21 around the 14th, 15th. I think it depends on the time zone, because some of the places I was looking, it said the 14th, and other places said the 15th, and I was just like, the world has a bunch of time zones. So it's going to go back retrograde into the 17th, that opinions gate on the 16th, and it's going to be in the gate of opinions until the 25th, when it goes into the 25. So again, we have this, this opinionated energy. Farsightedness with the 17, with the 25, it's all about, open-heartedness versus constriction. And then we move back into Pisces with Mercury on the 29th, I'm sorry. And we end off the month with Mercury in Pisces. Does it go into the 36? I'm not sure if I didn't write that down. We end off the month with Mercury in Pisces, either at the very end of the 25 or the very beginning of 36. And Mercury is going to be retrograde in Pisces until April 7th. And so again, we have this fiery energy of Aries. Kind of, are we going to choose to be the toddler, or are we going to choose to, use that fire more constructively, moving into the watery, intuitive energy of Pisces in Mercury as well.
I love that. And I think that this is a choice, right? So this month, on many levels, whether it's our intimate relationships, our communication, I mean, we'll get to the sun in a minute, but we've got to be aware that this is a time of very, like these gates, like the gate 17, opinion, the gate 21, control, the gate 36, crisis. Like these are really, really big, the 25, constriction. These are really powerful. And I think that this is such an important time. Again, like let's have a do-over in communication. This is a time not to point the finger, to blame, to point out all the things that you're afraid of, or all the things that everyone else is doing wrong in your opinion. This is actually a time that maybe we can improve upon our opinions, or we can listen to other people's opinion and just be open-minded, or just listen, just listen without agenda. Because it's such a fiery time. It's such a volatile time energetically. So how do we want to show up? Do we want to choose reactionary behavior? Do we want to choose a responsive behavior where we actually, allow ourselves to respond from the heart instead of responding, either from the fight, flight, freeze, or responding from any other fear mechanism? So I really think this is a time, and because we've got the 25 playing around in here so much, this is a time for universal love. But we do need to actually contemplate, do I want to react or do I want to respond? Do I want to actually hold space and listen, or am I just going to jump in and talk over everybody else? A really important time for that.
Absolutely. And, with the fiery Aries energy, I was talking a lot about, kind of the shadow of Aries, being the toddler, and how do we want to actually move forward. And I wanted to touch a little bit, on that shadow of Pisces, which is like the overly idealistic dreamer. And I mean, I'm a Pisces sun. I know you are too, Emma. So there's part of me that is yep, that can be me. And so, how can we really use this Pisces energy and retrograde in both Mercury and Venus, as well as the sun right now, if you're listening in real time, and, to really tune into our intuition and take action from it, be that wise sage that, the Pisces is, or Aries is the toddler, but that Pisces is the most evolved sign, quote unquote. And so how can we move from that wise place instead of, staying in the overly, instead of, being the overly idealistic dreamer who just sits and dreams?
Yeah, this certainly isn't a time in human history just to sit and dream. We need the dreaming, but we need the doing. It's a good combination.
Absolutely. So I do have a couple other, there's a couple other things happening besides the sun gates that I want to touch on. And the next thing that I think is really important to mention is that Neptune is leaving Pisces for the first time since 2011 at the very end of this month. It is moving into Aries, and on March 30th of this month. And it will retrograde back into Pisces later on this year in October, I believe. And then we'll be in Aries again at the start of 2026, I believe. Yeah, the beginning of January of 2026, it will be back in Aries. But this is the first time in our lifetimes that Neptune has been in Aries. And the last time that Neptune was in Aries was on April 13th, 1861, which was one day after the Civil War began.
Wow.
If that tells you anything about
let's hope we don't go into that.
Exactly, that is. Let's let's not. I don't want to, be creating that reality by speaking about it, but this is the kind of energy we're dealing with right now. Neptune has been in Pisces since 2011, and Neptune is at home in Pisces. It's the dreamer it's the dreamer planet. It's the planet of intuition, and that's very Pisces. And so Neptune in Aries is, going to bring a different flavor. It's like, how can, it's that dreamer of Neptune, but again, with that fiery Aries energy, how can we take action?
Yeah, you know what came up, like when you said the thing about the Civil War, like what popped into my head is like, oh, just fighting amongst ourselves. It's that energy. Let's not fight amongst ourselves. That's what we're doing right now. So much, too much in the world, fighting amongst ourselves. Let's not do that. Let's stop that. Let's actually see that everyone is, valuable. Everyone matters. We don't have to get along with everyone. We don't have to agree with everyone. We certainly don't need to have an opinion on everyone. But, we are now in this time of, the age of Aquarius. And the age of Aquarius is all about you do you, mate. I'm happy. I'll do me, you do you. So the more that we can sit in that space, in these energies, like if it can create civil war, which is something huge, this energy can create something huge in, the vein of love as opposed to fear. So that's a great opportunity. What's our opportunity? What's the opportunity that we want to bring as a collective?
Absolutely. And I think with the, again, using that toddler metaphor with Aries, it's like, we don't have to be the toddler. Like we can choose a better way. And so using that, that dreamer energy of Neptune combined with the fiery energy of Aries to really dream something amazingly fiery and supportive into creation. And of course, that's something that we can all do individually. And the more of us who decide to create from that space, the better, because we all have energy, and we all send energy out into the world. And the more of us that are moving from love, the better.
Yeah. And it's that whole like metaphor I talk about, the movie screens. We all walk around with these movie screens in our head, and most of us are listening to the media, to governments, to the elite that are programming our movie screens for us. We have to stop doing that. We have to program our own movie screens. And on our movie screens, we want to see love and support and collaboration and kindness and trust and building this new paradigm. We get to control our individual movie screen, because our movie screen creates our reality. So the more movie screens we have dialed into a positive, hopeful, abundant, resourceful, loving future, the more we're going to create it. It's just that in the past, these few people knew how important our movie screens were, so they've created a world where they decide what's on them. We must take back our power and decide what's on our own movie screen, so that we are part of the bigger collective that's creating this new, loving, peaceful, free world.
Absolutely. I mean, it goes back to that 55 energy, which is the energy of the new paradigm.
Exactly.
Are we going to be victims to our circumstances, or are we going to rise above it and choose freedom?
Choose freedom.
That's what I'm trying to do. It's my goal.
Love it.
Yeah, and so we do have a couple other things. We are in the midst of eclipse season right now. We will have a full lunar eclipse in Virgo in gate 6. It's like March 12th, 13th, or 14th. I can't remember the exact date. But I believe it's I think March 12th, actually. That sounds right. So the 36 will be in the sun, and it's gate 6. And so, just be mindful with that Virgo energy of routines. There's so much, I think, how do I want to describe Virgo? There's so much organization energy and like being on top of things and, being responsible and, that earthy Virgo energy. But, give yourself some grace there. And what can you let go of in terms of, where are you putting too much energy into those responsibilities and routines, and how can you create new ones? Gate 6 is all about peace in the city and diplomacy. And so, moving from that peace.
And maybe, talking about that Virgo energy and, organization, where has organization turned into control? Because organization is one thing. It's actually something for me that I love, the feeling of organization. My cross of planning loves to be organized. I think it's my rising sign that's in Virgo. So I love it. But one thing I've been aware of for many years is that my organization can turn into control. So it's that kind of like understanding where this energy turns into unresourceful.
Yeah, Absolutely. And I mean, I'm a Virgo moon, so I also kind of understand that as well. Just like where is the organization becoming control and where is it not serving? So that is, I think, is the 12th. It does sound right because it was the 14th for Mercury retrograde. And then we have a partial solar eclipse in Aries on March 29th in gate 17, which that's when the moon and the sun are together. And so we have that. It's at the very end of gate 17, like right on the edge of the 21st or the 21 coming in.
Oh, that's exciting. So it'll be in
Yeah.
the line 6, which is all about visioning the next phase. So
Yep.
new opinions. That feels cool. I like that. Yep.
Yep. And so, just be mindful during this eclipse season that, it's a heavy time. There can be a lot of energy moving around. And we are kind of starting a new nodal journey with the lunar nodes entered Virgo and Pisces earlier this year. And so that's, that partial eclipse at the end of the month is kind of finishing up that Libra Aries energy from the past nodal transit. And there is that. I don't want to speak too much more to the eclipse energy, though just to be aware that it is there. And I can do a real quick, if you're up for it, Emma, just a review of the sun gates that are going to be happening this month as well.
Let's do it. Let's review the sun gates.
Perfect. So we are in gate 63 right now. We started off the month with gate 63. That is, the gate of doubt in human design. And in the Gene Keys, it is the shadow of doubt and the gift of inquiry. And so if you're feeling that doubtful energy, I know I have been feeling it. It's okay. Be aware of it. But how can we turn that doubt into inquiry? Because there's such a beautiful way of being able to see beyond the doubt and being able to see the bigger picture. I think this is head energy. And so, being very mindful of that. The 64 is in the earth right now. So that's turning confusion to imagination. And how can we use the grounding energy of the 64 to help get us into, that grounding energy of inspiration to get us further into inquiry?
Yeah, one of the things I always think about with these two gates, because I feel like these two gates get a bad rap. And I think the gate of doubt, I remember talking to a very, very successful podcaster, very successful entrepreneur, and he has it, projector, has it in his sun gate. And I said to him, it's the gate of doubt. And he looked at me like, oh, I don't want to hear that. And I said, no, the gate of doubt is when you have it, you can see the doubt is whatever's in front of you isn't working. I doubt that's going to work. That's not good. I doubt that's going to work. And it's the catalyst for, but what is going to work? So it's this energy of you can get stuck in the doubt, but that's all. It's just your ego. It's just a catalyst for, okay, well, if I doubt that's going to work, what is going to work? And it's the same with the 63, the confusion. Confusion is really more about the the amount of information. It's a huge amount of information. But when you start to put it into, a process, I'm watching my language because I don't want to say like a logical, because it's not logical circuitry, but when you kind of start to put the information into buckets, if you like, then all of a sudden the confusion will start to dissipate because you're kind of like, okay, I see where this is all starting to go. So they're nothing but catalysts for, if it's not that, what is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just reading the 63 today, and Richard Rudd talks about, channeling the that doubt that you feel, like that mental doubt, channeling it into service. And using it to support others and bringing that gift of inquiry out into the world, because so much of doubt is mental energy. And we all know, if we're in this human design space, that we're not designed to make decisions from the head. We're designed to make decisions from our authority. And so, how can we channel that? If you're experiencing any doubt this week, if you have the 63 prominently, how can you, even if you don't, because we're all in this soup of energy, right? How can we use that 63 energy to serve others. And that's all the head energy. It's like, not your head energy isn't for you, it's for others.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, mental energy, right? It's always for what we call an outer authority. It's always for someone else. And I think I just had a dyslexic moment. I had my 63 and my 64 mixed up, didn't I? I think I had them swapped over.
You did.
Proper dyslexic moment. But anyway,
it's okay.
It's me. This is who I am, people. Dyslexia is a part of my truth. I'm also a genius, and it's okay.
It's okay, and it happens to the rest of us. So that is going to until the 7th, the 63. So it is the 5th where I am, the 6th where Emma is right now. And so we have about a day and a half-ish, 2 days a day, depending on where you are, left of the 63. And then we have the 22 coming in on the 7th. And that is the gift of social graciousness, openness, the shadow of dishonor, the gift of graciousness, city of grace. This is actually my sun gate, so I'm having a birthday coming up soon. And so being really aware that week, it's the 7th to the 12th of, where are you dishonoring yourself? That could come from a place of not speaking your truth. It could come from a place of not feeling your emotions. It could come in a lot of different forms, but how can we turn that dishonor into grace? For me, as someone who does have this energy very prominently as my conscious sun and Mercury, a lot of times I find that I kind of project my dishonor out onto others. So there's like a blaming, like, oh, they're doing something wrong, but really it's like, I'm not looking at something in myself. And so if you find yourself overly blaming other people, that's also a sign of dishonor, because it says in the 22nd gene key, when you dishonor another, you dishonor yourself, you dishonor the collective consciousness. And so that can also, the 47, which is in the earth, can also ground us with that, because that helps us transmute all of those feelings of dishonor that we're feeling, so that we can turn it into that gift of graciousness in the city of grace.
Yeah, I love it. I think the other place that you can really dishonor yourself with the 22 is, again, this is understanding that at the end of the day, it is all about individual energy. So it's about being in the mood. It's individual emotional energy. So are you forcing yourself to turn up in a consistent way when that's just not correct for you?
Absolutely. That's a great point as well. And that's something that I have struggled with, because we live in a very tribal society right now with the 37 energy in the cross of the planning. And, there can be the pressure to show up, and be part of the tribe. But if you have a lot of individual circuitry, especially if you have the 1222 energy at all in you, it's like, but I don't want to right now. And how can I honor that? Because I know that when I take time for myself, I'm going to show up best for other people.
Exactly. Love it. All right. What's next?
Then we have from the 12th to the 18th, we have that 36 energy, which we spoke of earlier. So that's the gate of crisis, of course, humanity and the compassion in its higher forms. And so, taking the emotional energy, the emotional crisis that we feel, and being able to use that to see that we all have struggles and we all have emotions. I think there's such a beauty in turning our crisis into turning that emotional energy of crisis and using it to help others and to support others and to give love to others, because sometimes life can be challenging at times, and we all have moments of crisis, but we don't have to live in the crisis. We can also use that crisis as fuel to support others,
grow and evolve
going through it. Yeah.
Well, I think it's it's very much this energy of we're all growing and evolving together, so let's grow. Let's not stay stuck in fear and crisis. Let's actually move towards compassion, a compassionate world, collective.
Yep. And we have the 6 on the earth at that time. That's when the full moon is going to be. So the 6 is also in full moon. And so that energy of peace and diplomacy to kind of help balance out the emotional energy of the crisis. And then we are going into the 25 energy from the 18th to the 24th. This is my vessel of love energy, which I absolutely adore. One of my good friends is born under the 25 sun. And so again, that's constriction in the shadow, but it is universal love in the city and acceptance in the gift. So like this is G center energy, it's direction, it's like accepting who you are at your core so you can accept more of everybody else and open up your heart to the fact that we are this one human family.
I love that. And it's definitely something that we need right now. Definitely.
Absolutely. And it is such a prominent energy throughout the Mercury retrogrades and the Venus retrograde as well. So I think that hopefully we can take the goodness from that. And the 46 is in the earth, kind of complementing that, allowing us to like tune into our body, tune into the delight of our body. And the more that we can, tune into the delight of our body, the more we can accept ourselves and others.
And the wisdom. I always think like the 46 is also about listening to the wisdom that's already being communicated from within our physical vessel. And the more we listen to the body and the biofeedback, the more we experience love, the correct direction, better decisions, the more authenticity we experience, the more aligned our life is, the more flow we experience. So I always think about that with the 46 as well. Very much about listening to the wisdom of the body.
Absolutely. And that is in the earth from the 18th to the 24th. We have a couple more gates to round off the month. We have from the 24th to the 29th, gate 17, which we already talked about, opinionated versus farsightedness. And so this is a week where you might notice your opinions are really influencing you and, other people's opinions of being very loud. How can we rise above that? The 18 is in the earth at this time. So, how can we use our integrity, our real, just that integrity within us to support us in reaching a more far-sighted perspective.
I think also with the 17 to remember, I think a bit, we're presupposing a little bit that other people's opinions are something that we don't like. I think one thing that is so important to understand, I have the 17 and I've always been, I remember reading The City of the 17 and just going, oh my God, that's me. Not all the time, but we just be open to other people's opinions. Don't be opinionated about other people's opinions. Just be open, because the reality is if you're open and you hold space to listen to other people's opinions, at the very least, you're going to learn something. You're going to learn why people do what they do or why they make the choices they make, or you could even learn something new that changes your opinion. So I think the 17 is really powerful in its highest expressions for opening our minds to
absolutely
what other people are thinking and how they construct their reality. And when we learn not to make that right, wrong, good or bad, when we can actually just listen and hold space for it, then there's so much potential for growth there. Even if it's just you can be compassionate because now you understand where someone's coming from, even though you don't agree with them.
Yeah.
Or you can have your opinions changed. So I love the 17. When you're in a place of love with the 17, it's such a great energy. When you are defending from the shadow, then it can be uncomfortable.
Absolutely, 100% agree with you, Emma. And we are in such a place in our history, especially in my country, where so many people don't even want to hear the other person's opinion, because they're like, I don't want to hear it. Your opinion is bad. The way you think is bad. You're a terrible person. And that's not how we grow. That's not how we evolve. If you are going at someone expecting the worst from them because they think differently than you, there's just no hope.
That's the world you'll get.
Yeah,
exactly. You've already decided the reality you're creating.
I love what you said, that we don't have to like someone's opinion to listen to them. There's a difference between respecting someone as a human and disagreeing with them, and just totally disrespecting the whole human because you don't even want to listen to them.
Exactly. Which says more about you as the individual than it does about the 100%,
other. Going back to that 22 energy, when you dishonor another person, you dishonor yourself, and you dishonor the collective consciousness. And so,
exactly.
I love that. And I think keeping that, that's going to be a big theme from the 24th to the 29th. And the sun, it's also another big player in Mercury and Venus retrograde. And so, opinions aren't bad. It's this whole construct that we've developed that we can't share opinions and we can't have opinions, and that, if your
Or you
opinion is
have to
different
be
than
on a
mine.
side, that opinions are about
Yeah.
creating sides. They're not. They're like
No.
everyone sees the world differently. We all frame our reality differently. So an opinion is just a frame. That's all it is. It's just the way they've constructed the frame in which they look through. So the more you can understand the frame in which other people see their life, the more you can understand where they're coming from. And it doesn't mean you have to be, agree with them or not. That's irrelevant. But what it helps you be is more understanding, more compassionate, more, like the more you realize that they're probably so much the same as you. They're looking for the same things: safety, love, acceptance, belonging. They're looking for the same things that you're looking for. They're just coming from a different direction. So I think it's a really powerful time to be open-minded.
Absolutely.
So
And
what
then
else have we got left?
we finish off the month with the 21, which starts transiting on the 29th, and we'll finish on April 4th. So that, again, is another big player during this Venus and Mercury retrograde period. We've already talked about the 21 a lot as well. That, of course, is the shadow of control, the gift of authority, in the city of valor. And so, where are we controlling? Where are we controlling our resources? Where are we trying to control other people? And how can we step more into a place of authority throughout our life? And I think to really trust ourselves and trust the people around us to, that they got this and we got this and you got this. And, it is tribal energy. And so really walking from that place of authority and trusting that your tribe is totally capable of functioning without complete overbearing control. And in the earth, we have the 48, which is actually my culture and pearl, to kind of support that, because that's the resourcefulness and the wisdom. And it's like when we can move from a place of authority, like it's that wisdom and trust in others that allows us to do that.
I love that. I love that so much. And yeah, it's that the 48 always makes me think it's the courage to go as deep as you need to go to see the truths that lie within. And then once you see the truths, you bring them back out to create something amazing. So yeah, it's beautiful, powerful energy.
Absolutely. And such a good energy to keep in mind in the earth when the sun is going through that, that authority gate, that, control versus authority.
I love it. So good. Anything else you want to finish up on?
Oh my goodness. I think that's all. I was like, let me look at my notes. I think we're good. Got all I needed to say out.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, Britta, thank you so much for jumping in and supporting our friend Yvette. You're just the best. You did an amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for trusting me to be the resource this month with Yvette out. And of course, I'm sending all my love and support to Yvette and her family.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening. I trust you got what you needed from today's episode. Again, sending lots of love to Yvette. Please send love and safety to us here on the east coast of Australia, and at least the far north Queensland. Well, we're the middle east coast, Brisbane area of Australia. And I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you so much. Bye for now.